Welcome to the Excellent Life Podcast, a podcast where you are inspired, motivated, and challenged to live a life of excellence. On the show, I will cover topics like created for excellence, keys to living an excellent life, and living your very best life. My special guests will also share from their wealth of experience the principles for living an excellent life. I'm your host, Bola Mateloko, and I'm so excited to be with you today. Welcome to episode 7 of the Excellent Life Podcast. I am your host, Bola Mateloko, and I'm super excited and delighted to be with you again today. The topic for today's show is excellence versus perfection. Far too often, I hear people say things like, if only my life were perfect. I am looking for the perfect partner, and all I need is a perfect job, and I will be the happiest person on earth. The question becomes, is there really anything like a perfect life, a perfect partner, or a perfect job for that matter? The word perfect is a simple yet complex word with many different meanings depending on where you look. For the purpose of our discourse today, I like the definition found in the Collins English Dictionary. It defines perfect or perfection as the quality of being as good as it is possible for something or someone to be. I love this definition because it leaves room for your human imperfections while encouraging you to be the very best version of yourself, which is the excellent person you were created to be. Perfection is a distinct concept that has evolved over the course of time. This has motivated people to attempt to achieve perfection, whether it be through owning the nicest cars, the most expensive clothes, or having a lot of money or living in the house of their dreams. The truth is that none of these things have the ability to make you perfect. When God said to Abraham, "Walk before me and be perfect," God was asking him to strive to live a life of total obedience to him. In the same way, living a life of perfection is a constant pursuit as long as you are alive. Excellence is what you achieve in the pursuit of perfection. Perfection believes that things can be better, even when there is no logical basis for such a belief. But excellence is the recognition of your potential that leads you to believe that you can indeed do your very best to do at any point in time, and you have the ability within you to do so. The pursuit of perfection does not allow you rest on the last best you accomplished and can serve as inspiration for continuous improvement. There is a balance to be struck because the pursuit of perfection can become the enemy of excellence if care is not taken. As I ponder on this topic of excellence versus perfection, there are a few thoughts I would like to share with you today. Number 1, don't let perfection get in the way of excellence. I love a quote by Joyce Meyer which says, "Strive for excellence, not perfection, because we do not live in a perfect world." Contrary to God's plan when He created man, we do not live in a perfect world, and that in itself is a barrier to achieving perfection. You should not be so focused on perfection that you actually fail to attain excellence, which is very much within your power. Excellence is attainable with effort, skill, and strategy, while perfection can be an unrealistic standard. When you strive for excellence, you can accept that mistakes are inevitable and value what you learn from such mistakes. You do not have to let your mistakes define you. Perfection, on the other hand, sees mistakes as evidence of your inadequacy or inferiority. When you are fixated on perfection, you expect to know everything, to outperform everyone, to know the right thing to say or do every single time, to be above reproach and never let anyone down. This can be totally unrealistic and too much of a burden to carry by anyone. Excellence is a healthy striving to be outstanding and be your very best. It promotes personal growth and improvement. Perfection, on the other hand, sets painfully high standards that anything short of which is not acceptable. Unlike excellence, perfection simply does not give room for mistakes or imperfections. Excellence, however, allows for mistakes and imperfections and is more forgiving. The primary difference between excellence and perfection is the way making mistakes or flaws is viewed. Perfection magnifies mistakes and shortcomings. It will take a mistake and deem it as a sign of complete failure and is totally focused on the negative, while failing to see the potential positives of making mistakes and the many benefits to embracing your imperfections and learning from your mistakes. When you focus on perfection, you will inevitably be disappointed. You cannot see beyond your shortcomings and mistakes, and no matter what you accomplish, you never feel good enough. Excellence paves the way for improvement, while perfection paves the way for stagnation, limiting your creativity and innovation. You will struggle to deliver when your emphasis is on perfection. Excellence tolerates mistakes and failures, thus allowing you to explore and experiment, which in turn paves way for excellence. Excellence is feasible and possible, while perfection can be frustrating and difficult to attain. Excellence is pleasure, while perfection is totally unnecessary pressure. I challenge you not to allow perfection to get in the way of your doing your very best at any point in time, while still striving to do better as you go along. Number 2, perfection will mostly lead to procrastination. The unrealistic desire for perfection can lead to what I like to call temporary paralysis or procrastination. The fear of being unable to complete a task perfectly results in putting it off as much as possible. When you are focused on perfection, you are terrified that any kind of failure will invoke criticism or ridicule from those around you. The greater the fear of failure and ridicule, the more the reason to procrastinate. Before I launched this podcast, I attended a podcast bootcamp. My podcast coach, Tombra, would start every class emphasizing our 4 agreements. The first was done, not perfect, which meant I will not let perfection get in the way of me launching. I looked up the phrase done not perfect in preparing for this episode and came across a quote that further amplifies the procrastinating nature of seeking perfection. It said, done is better than perfect because perfect never gets done. Getting something done is so satisfying, while perfection may keep us tweaking something forever. I remember when I had my first baby. Every time he needed a diaper change, the nurse would come to take him away to do so. The one time he needed a diaper change, I could not get the nurse to come in on time. My baby was screaming at the top of his voice. I knew I could not put away changing his diaper anymore. Even though my effort at changing his diaper was far from perfect, there was a sense of satisfaction I got just from getting the task done. Remember that done is not over. You can always go back to modify your idea, your task, or your project. Excellence recognizes that even though a task may be done, there might be the need to do better when you know better. When you decide to tackle the task at hand excellently, you position yourself to be noticed and position yourself for opportunities you may not have had by doing nothing. Remember, you are never done when you are done. Enjoy the process, knowing that you can only get better. Practice, indeed, makes perfect. As long as you are trying to get it perfect before you start, perfection becomes a hindrance. Instead, choose progress over perfection. Is there a project or a task that you have put off because of the fear of failure? Now is the time to tackle it with a mindset of done, not perfect. Doing your very best where you are with what you have right now. Number 3, recognize and embrace your imperfections. The Apostle Paul recognized that he had a thorn in his flesh, which was some form of imperfection, and asked God to take it away. God's response to him was, "My grace is more than sufficient for you." Paul embraced his weakness and actually boasted about it so that God's power may rest on him. In the same way, the first step towards embracing your imperfections is to be mindful and shift your perspective about yourself. Stop viewing yourself as insufficient or lacking in certain areas and see yourself as a whole being despite and in spite of your imperfections. Moreover, upon reflection, you may find that your flaws or imperfections offer you a distinct and unique edge. It reminds me of the story of an artist who approached a homeless man, gave him some money, and asked him to come to his studio the next day so he could draw his portrait. The homeless man was so excited. He went to get a haircut, bought a new suit, showered, and arrived at the artist's studio, a changed man. The artist did not recognize him, and he had to explain to him that he was the homeless man he met the day before. The artist exclaimed, "What have you done? I wanted your portrait just the way you looked." Realize that your imperfections make you human. They give you character and make you authentic. Embracing imperfections by practicing self-acceptance allows you to let go of the need to conform to the unrealistic standards you set for yourself and be free to lead a meaningful life. Perfection is not a prerequisite for fulfilling of your goals. Goals help you move forward, but should not serve as impediments that remind you of what you lack. You need to recognize your flaws, commit to working on them, and endeavor to fulfill your goals while still feeling great about yourself. The company you keep and the people you interact with can affect your thought process and decisions. So it is important to surround yourself with positive-minded people who truly accept you with your flaws and your shortcomings. Make it a habit to listen to inspiring podcasts like the Excellent Life podcast that motivate you to be the very best version of yourself without having to resort to the trappings of perfectionism. It is important to understand that your flaws and imperfections, they make you real. Embracing imperfections is key to leading an authentic and fulfilling life. Number 4, the pursuit of perfection can be detrimental to your health and well-being. The pursuit of perfection comes with serious risks to your physical, mental, and even spiritual well-being. It can put undue pressure on you to meet extremely high and impossible standards, which will inevitably set up feelings of failure and self-defeat because they are just that impossible. It is important to learn the difference between perfectionism and healthy striving so as to protect against the negative toll it can take upon you. Some common signs of perfectionism include unrealistic expectations, constant comparison, all or nothing thinking, indecisiveness, defensiveness, especially in response to perceived criticism, and low self-esteem. The danger about perfectionism is that it can affect every area of your life if you don't consciously deal with it. It will affect your work because you constantly procrastinate due to a lack of confidence, believing that a less than perfect result is a sign of failure. Personal relationships will suffer because you constantly demand perfection from your loved ones, expecting them to be the perfect partner, the perfect child, or perfect friend, as the case may be. You will find it difficult to enjoy physical activity due to your dwelling on mistakes and your inability to meet the standard that you have set for yourself. The pursuit of perfection poses significant health risks and can cause depression, anxiety, and social isolation, amongst other conditions. The thing to remember is that the person who pressures you the most is yourself. Be kind to yourself and practice self-acceptance by lowering unrealistic standards that you have set for yourself. Perfection can be likened to the mirage you see in the desert that disappears when you get close to it. The key is to be constantly motivated to do your very best at every point in time. It may not be perfect, but it will definitely be excellent. Number 5, focus on progress over perfection. We live in a society where people are constantly striving for perfection. People want the perfect job, the perfect marriage, perfect children, and a perfect life as a whole. These are ideals that will never get met. Too often, you can become so focused on reaching perfection that you lose sight of the progress you make along the way. Progress is your forward or onward movement towards your destination or goal. Progress is about the journey and the learning you make along the way. It is about improvement, not perfection. In the progressive mindset, you feel good about yourself now. And even though there is room for improvement, you appreciate every incremental step towards your goal. Focusing on progress instead of perfection can make it much easier and enjoyable to reach your goals. When you constantly focus on perfection, you are setting yourself up for feelings of disappointment and discouragement. If you focus on progress, you are learning, growing, and most importantly, enjoying the journey. This is not to say that you should not set the bar high. Absolutely, you should set the bar high. That is what living a life of excellence is all about. But focus on progress, not perfection. Focus on the process, on the now, not on the outcome, on the steps along the way. When you do this, you focus on the journey, not the destination. As I close the show today, I want to leave you with the following affirmations. Number 1, you are increasingly excellent in all you think, say, or do. Number 2, you will not let perfection get in the way of excellence. Number 3, you strive towards excellence and you do not procrastinate. You demonstrate excellence within you at all times. Number 5, you recognize and embrace your imperfections with a desire to get better. Number 6, you are infused with the energy of excellence in every area of your life. Number 7, you focus on progress over perfection. Number 8, you are orderly, organized, and effective in your pursuit of excellence. Number 9, you strive for excellence, but are not fixated on perfection. Number 10, you are constantly looking to improve on a daily basis. On the next episode of the Excellent Life podcast, I have some very special guests who will be joining me for a very special edition of the show. Till then, bye-bye and God bless. Thanks for joining me this week on the Excellent Life podcast. I trust that you have been inspired by the show today. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Bola Mateloko, the Excellent Life Coach. And be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes so you never miss an episode. If you love the show, please leave a rating on iTunes so that I can continue to bring you many more life-changing episodes. Thank you for listening, and I will be with you in 2 weeks for another inspiring episode. Till then, remember, it is possible to live your very best life.